Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good day.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
I'm in California. The sun is coming up as we speak.
Good for you.
Pretty good. Yeah, it happens. Once a day, it happens.
Stability.
Good evening, guys.
Evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, so today I know that not everyone is here, partially because of electricity and blackouts. But yeah, today we'll have a lecture from Rick Rasmussen, lecture about revenue models, unit economics, and basically how to build a full P&L with perfect examples that'll allow you to understand the full process from 0 to 1. Yeah, thank you, Rick. Thank you for being here, and thank you for giving out this lecture.
My pleasure, and thank you all for taking the time and being here. I know it's not easiest of situations. I've been working with Ukraine since around 2000. Well, my first trip with there was 2012 back then, but with Unit City and other places since around 2016. So sympathies go out to everybody, and let's make the best of the situation and try to plow forward. What I'm going to do today is basically teach an entire semester of finance within an hour and a half. So, and this is university level, it goes pretty fast. But by the end of this, you guys should be able to generate the financial portion of your plan. And this is, I'm not a finance guy. So I'm an engineer by training, semiconductor physics, microprocessor architecture back in the day. And what I found was, as I was reviewing plans as a potential investor or just a mentor or anything else, is the finances were usually spotty at best and crappy at worst. And so I invented sort of this engineering-based methodology on trying to build out finances. So follow along. It's pretty simple once we get going, and it consists of 4 steps. And so I'm going to go through 4 separate individual lectures. Before I do, it's a small group, and so really it's not about me, it's about you. Can you guys just give me like a small snippet of what it is you do, and in particular, how you're looking to make revenue, if you've thought about that at all? I mean, the specific model, is it a product? Is it a service? Is it a subscription, freemium, consumer facing, business facing? Those kinds of things are super helpful because then I'll tailor everything to you guys. So if you don't mind, we'll just take I know you do this all the time, but if you don't mind, we'll just take a second and sort of make the tour. Dimitro, BusyCast.
Wow. Hello. Hi. Okay. I have a platform for podcasting recording, and I have a small, tiny revenue, but my model is freemium and donations. Freemium donations like in for streaming, and freemium like a subscription for specific functions, abilities, etc.
Okay. I'll do it right towards the end, actually kind of in the middle. I'll give you a bit of freemium discussion about how those models work, or sometimes do, sometimes don't. And so you're what I missed the part. What are you recording?
Sorry.
You said you have a service that does recording.
Yeah.
What are you actually recording?
Podcasts, audio and video.
Podcasts. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was just the keyword I missed. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. We're good. Mikita, Sidenum.
Yeah. We are the platform that helping any people to develop their skills, to find a new job, or to develop their experience. Have some tools. One of them is a building roadmap for people, depends on the goal, and giving them, like, depends on their advantages and disadvantages, giving them like the roadmap of e-providers, like books and any. We are giving the tool that giving information to the people how they can progress and develop their skills. As told before, Dmitro, we are also using freemium, so it's some stages of subscription. Depends on the level of subscriptions, they're giving more tools and more functionality. And this platform will be used by e-providers who is giving their new information, the courses to the customers, and the customers who is using our roadmap by developing their skills and learning something new from the courses and books. Depends on literature.
Cool. Yeah, you're using a lot of the terms really well. I like the step up in terms of pricing levels, the fact that you denote users and customers as separately. This is good. I'm actually teaching a course right now called Developing and Managing People. It sounds like State, which is right down the street. And so I'd love to talk to you about a little bit more about what you're doing.
Okay,
I'm going to march around the room real quick. Yuri.
Hello.
Hi.
We have InnovaSpace. It's named InnovaSpace. It's a social network and marketplace for startups. And today we a little change our product, and we have more than 3 ways to revenue. And I think we will discuss or make decision after or during launch the product. It's a little difficult.
Cool. I'll show you some algorithms on how to figure out the best way to achieve revenues. And having multiple revenue models is not typically a problem. In fact, it's a feature and a benefit.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's roll through. Max, hey.
Hi, Rick. Yeah, we are Ricom Green, and we are doing the smart sorting systems with robotic and efficient intelligent system. It's for sorting waste of packaging like paper cups.
So this is weird. I had a dream about this last night. I had a dream about how the conveyor belt goes by and it sorts things through. This is random coincidence, but
we are doing smart sorting systems. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. And our financial trees is one of them. It's selling the equipment, and the second part it's prescription. It means that the operators which collecting the raw materials, which collecting the waste, need to some reporting how many is collected, the different materials. That's why, because of depend on the different legislations in the different countries, it's needed to collect in the raw materials. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll get into that, but you're selling a piece of large equipment that goes through some sort of
hardware and software as well.
Excellent. Got it. Konstantin, and I saw you had one of your colleagues just join as well.
It's from here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hello. We create an AI assistant for online shopping. We address tasks that pain from the save of time of the people in this process.
Okay. Cool. And how do you make revenue?
No, we have this pre-seed Stadia. We don't have the MVP, but we have a vector of MVP of our website.
Okay. All right. We'll go through and talk about it. Nicoletta, we've already heard. from one of your colleagues. Let me go around. Parastock with Evgeny. And I apologize, my pronunciation is terrible.
Yeah, it's good. It's pronunciation is good.
Hello, my name is Evgeny. I don't have a light at this moment, and I am without camera. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We're going around, and I just because this is a financial talk, I'm trying to get an idea of who we have in the room. And so, what do you do, and how do you make money?
We don't make money at this moment because we don't have certification and IP protection. We create and produce a unique technological unit for preserving seed treatment parastock.
Okay.
That's
right.
all.
Great.
Thank you.
No problem. And it's not a problem that you're not making revenue yet. What we're trying to do is to build out what a plan would look like, especially if you're trying to, speak with potential investors, grantors, things along those lines. All right. Do we miss anybody? I'm
Yeah,
gonna launch
we
this.
have vrnet.io, Alexandra, but I'm not sure she is able to talk right now. Alexandra.
Oh, there she is.
I can do so, but I'm not sure that I'll be like I'll lose in connection. I hope you're hearing me well for now at least.
All right. Well, this is being recorded.
Yeah, we do.
And we'll have a transcript for you as well. So, but
Okay. We are transforming 2D plans into 3D models to show how the future property will look like even if it's not built.
Okay, got it.
And how we make money? We have B2B SaaS model. We like providing a model for using for developer, and we charge every month the developer using this model on their website or in the sales office.
Perfect. Got it. All right. We'll talk specifically to how that works from a financial perspective. Okay, I'm gonna launch in. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So thank you all. The super interesting plans and creative as always. And let me launch into, here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover, and I'm going to do everything today. So I'm going to do these three, some basic unit economics. What I heard was a mix of revenue models ranging from freemium services models, a couple of products, the big recycling robot, and a lot of subscriptions. So we'll go through that. We'll go through an algorithm to try to figure out how best to optimize things and maybe get you to thinking about some new ways to make some money. Talk a little loosely about pricing theory, and then I'll actually go through and we'll build out a P&L for you guys. P&L, profit and loss, it's like an income statement. This is me. And so I'm an engineer, as mentioned, semiconductor industry. Each one of those started from scratch. We became profitable, went through an IPO. So I have 3 IPOs under my belt, and each one became a Fortune 500 company. And I was either VP, general manager, or CEO. I don't do that anymore. That's old. So what I do now is I was a venture capitalist. I hated it because you're just shuffling other people's money around. I'd rather consult and work with countries like Ukraine, and I do a lot of work with Moldova currently as well. I'll be there next month on helping build entrepreneurial ecosystems. I'm on the board of Unit City. I've been working with EOS almost since the beginning, and I teach. So I get to teach innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture capital. Unit economics. There's a musical start to this. Oh, well, it's evening there. I'll play it for a second. So this is a theme song you hear a lot when you start talking about finances. And it's got a good bass line. There you go. That's what we're going to talk about today. I do that because I teach a lot of undergrads and you have to entertain them. So We'll do that. So that unit economics. So first off, a lot of you have relatively complex products. The first thing when building out your finances is to figure out what are you selling and keep it narrow. And we can describe that as what basically what you price with your customers. What does it take to build and sell one unit? It could be a contract, it could be a customer, it could be a product, it could be a service, it could be a subscription. But if you don't know fundamentally what you're actually selling, what you're quoting to your customers, a lot of this stuff is really hard to pull together. And surprisingly, a lot of startups that I talk to don't know that. I'll give you an example. In fact, my example is pretty simple. If you know what you're selling, then you know how much money you're making when you sell a thing, how much it costs to produce that thing. Software may or may not have a cost to it, and then how much money you make. For this exercise, we're not going to worry about what you pay your people in salaries. We're not going to worry about your rent, your legal expenses, all that stuff. Those are fixed costs. So in the microeconomics world, we talk about variable and fixed. This is the variable side of things. Here's a silly example from one of my friends. Brett Waters at Stanford wrote The Launch Path. It's a pretty good book. But basically, for a taco, which is his thing, he talks about the fact that you've got some ingredients, it costs some labor to do that. You may put it in a package, and you may have a sales group or some other partner that you're sharing revenue with. All of those are your costs. You add those up, you sell this for $5 and you make some sort of a margin. And so the math, pretty simple, looks like this. So here's your unit cost, here's your unit profit, here's your unit margin, which I'll explain in a minute, and you're off and running. Think in these terms for the next 10 minutes as we go through. And those three are necessary ingredients before you actually start to build something. What we're going to do today is we're going to take your company, and almost all companies, startups, tech startups look something like this, where you're not generating revenue from day one, you're actually spending money to go ahead and build something. And so some of you are here, where you're doing your customer research, you're finding what's going on. Some of you are here where you've launched a product. As soon as you launch, you spend more money on marketing and sales. I didn't hear, maybe some of you are starting to get here, which is, this is a magic day right there. That day is the day that you are making as much money as you are spending. That is your break-even day. That's a wonderful day. And hopefully it lasts. If you don't ever reach that, then it's called the Valley of Death for a reason, because you crash and it's not going to work as a company. Turning the corner means that you are making money on a daily basis. And then here, this is cumulative cash flow break even. This is the day that you've made as much money as you've spent to develop your company. And then you become a profitable concern. Financials are nothing more than understanding kind of what that curve looks like, and then simply translating it into numbers. I'm gonna take this off for a second here. Hang on. Okay. It's so important. Number one thing when doing financials is do not open Excel. Do not open Google Sheets. Do not start with a spreadsheet. What you really need to do is to start with all these assumptions. You and your co-founders and your board and advisors and Marco can all sit down on a whiteboard and basically sketch out all of the things I'm going to talk about for the next 20, 30 minutes. And then, only then do you open spreadsheets. As soon as you open spreadsheets, your mind shifts into only numbers. We're not thinking about numbers, we're thinking about plans and products and assumptions. Hang on one second. Sorry. My wife just left for work. I had to say goodbye. She's a teacher. It's super cool. Substitute school teacher. All right, let me go back and open my presentation once again. All right, as we're not opening spreadsheets. Here we go. There we go. Boom. Cool. And so we're going to worry about this top half first. It's important because basically it allows you to figure out fundamentals, answer some real specific questions. The questions I was just asking you are largely related to where you are with your unit economics. So if I didn't hear a clear answer, you're not quite there yet, that's fine.
Excuse me, but we don't see the demonstration. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do. We do.
see.
It's the matter of the internet. So it'll come in a second.
I'll
It's
quit.
all fine, Rick.
Okay, I won't shift back and forth then. I'll keep it simple just for bandwidth purposes. And the next couple slides are pretty simple. So what we're going to do is there's some fundamental business models. Are you selling a product? Are you selling a service? Are you in a retail style business? None of you are here. And then you can combine these up. So I'll talk mostly about subscription. I didn't hear anybody doing a marketplace like an eBay or something. eBay is right down the corner, by the way. I walk by there every day. Headquarters. It's Silicon Valley. Cool. So if you break that down into these models, you'll see that each one of them has a style of revenue model. And I'll run through some examples here real quick. I'm going to start with product because it's super simple. And then we'll go largely to subscription after that. Product's a thing. So I'm going to talk about my clicker here. You design it and you start selling it. Pretty straightforward. So there's an upfront investment and it's a scalable business. Everybody understands what a product business looks like. And it relates not only just to hardware, but software is also a product that can be sold. So here's my clicker. Because if I was standing in front of you with a screen behind me, I'd be pushing this thing. So I just use it as my simple example. It has a market size. This is one of the fundamental things you should be doing when you get started. Hopefully you guys have had a lecture on market size. But if not, take a look. The acronym is total available market. And it just tells you, is this thing big enough to actually go off and build? Could you in finance? So if you're dealing with small markets, initially that's fine, but it has to grow into something large. My clicker is a larger market. I'll show you why in a little bit. If I were to go on to Amazon today, the wireless R400 Logitech initially listed at $50 and it's sold here on this website for $35. This is important because often you will be dealing with third parties like in Amazon that will be helping you sell your product or service. So you don't get the list price. You get your customers will buy it at a retail price. Amazon will take some off the top, and then you have a wholesale price of $25. In this case, when you're doing your P&L, when you're doing all your metrics, don't think about what your customer pays. Think about what you make at the end of the day.
Rick, just a second. We lose Marco, and he can't join to us.
Okay.
Just a second.
He told me this might happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because he said about that.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
if again, this is being recorded, I can run this. Although it's kind of fun to tell Marco jokes along the way. We're okay for now. All right, so $25 what we sell. This is an example. Sorry, I got cut off, but this shows you exactly if you ever wanted to do an Amazon, as a channel. This is the algorithm that they put you through to go ahead and do things. And so I put in my $35. Here's a unit price. They have fees. They warehouse this for me and they charge me $10.63. So these numbers, I round them for the purposes here, but they're real. They're real. So I have a unit price of 25. I have, after I subtract out their fees, I have a cost. The costs themselves, it's a funny word. It's called COGS, cost of goods sold. Again, if you're software, you may be zero, or we may look at other things like your cost of customer acquisition. But for my hardware product, my cost of goods sold are $10. And I made this up, but this is probably what it ends up being if I manufacture somewhere outside of the US. And so my unit economics fall out pretty fast. Unit price, unit cost, unit profit, unit price, unit price, unit cost, unit price, unit cost, unit profit, 15. And then you can calculate a unit margin, which is the profit divided by the revenue, 60%. You will now have a benchmark about how well your product or service functions overall. And in this case, 60% margin for my hardware product. Is that good? It depends. That's a good answer for any MBA question. It depends. It depends on what your fixed costs are and whether you can make money. It depends on, what this would be in a competitive environment. Are you ahead or behind your competitors and so on? But it's a benchmark you should know. People will ask you, what's your unit margin? And so that's it. That's the unit economics for a product. Cool. Let me go through and talk about the others, and I'll get to subscription in a second. For services, if you part of your business, if one of your revenue streams is a service model, you calculate that separately. And services this is a tangible product. It's a thing. An intangible product where you're selling time is like a service. So lawyers, janitors, developers, you're all selling and support services. So it's usually a billing rate that you have. And if you do, it's what you bill out, what you pay your employees, and there's a profit associated with that. It's pretty straightforward. And the tricky thing about services is in general, they don't scale. So hardware is scalable, subscriptions are scalable, services are not. Because if you think about it, if you're selling support services on an hourly basis, if you want to double your revenue, you have to double the number of service people or double again. And you can continue to grow your revenue, but at some point there's overhead that creeps in. They have to be managed. You have to get an accountant that takes care of them. Your office space grows in. And so there will be, instead of a curve that goes infinitely up or even increases, like with efficiencies of scale, curves go down. So investors don't necessarily like pure services businesses. But if you mix it as a function of revenue with some of your other things, it's good.
Rick, just a moment. Sorry, we lost one more people. It's Mikita, and she wrote about he can't to join to us. Maybe you can see in queue on order to connect. No.
Oh, waiting room. Okay. Yeah, there they are. Okay. Yeah, because Marco left there.
Yeah.
I just admitted them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting alerts.
Thank you.
No problem. I was getting alerts like this. Now I have a panel on the side that's like a control panel. So
Thank
I'll
you,
watch.
and excuse me.
No problem. I'll watch that. Thank you. Cool. Trade, no one's doing buy, sell, trade. I don't think. It's like a grocery store, just in effort of time. Basically, it's all about supply chains and how that works and any sort of things that fall out, like spoilage or something. And that's the way that's calculated out with a margin. Here's the one I want to talk about because a lot of you guys are there, is subscription models. Here's how we think of subscription models, and this is a classic. The guy who wrote this material, his name is David Skok, S-K-O-K, And if you're ever really interested in the details of unit economics for SaaS businesses, this is the guy. So it's a subscription. There's just it has been for the last 20 years the preferred model for scaling all kinds of businesses, hardware and software. The two metrics that we care most about are customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost you to acquire a customer? And then customer lifetime value. How much money do you make as a function of that new relationship you've just acquired? So those two are like the magic equation. And of course, it happens in a bunch of ways, all kinds of things. Use subscription models. We do it every day. And from a unit economic standpoint, this is what it looks like. So you're acquiring a customer. Let's use a mobile phone. So I'm a mobile provider. I advertise to you. I may bring you in the store with a discount or a free phone. I have a salesperson that I'm paying commission to. There's all kinds of costs associated with bringing you on board. If I'm an enterprise software company, I have a salesperson that calls on you. I have advertised and marketed to you. I probably have an installation cost associated with that. Whatever it is, you need to know what your cost to acquire the customer is, and that's a one-time sunk cost, typically. Then you make money. Whoop. So this is your money, your margin coming in. So you've signed a contract with them and your margin comes in. It may be steady like this or maybe lumpy, but you should kind of, in general, know what that looks like. And this is the margin. It's not the revenue. So we subtract out the cost of goods sold. So you spend money, you make money. And this accumulates over time. So if we take this curve and we turn it on its side, it looks like this. So you started off with a negative cash flow by acquiring a customer, and pretty soon, on a cumulative basis, you chew away at that initial cost, and then you start making money here over time. This is a big deal. This is a glorious day, and it basically means that when your contract, your unit becomes profitable, if you have an annual contract with this person, this company, you would lose money if they quit, if they cancel the contract after the first year. So ideally, what you'd like to do is one of two things. Either pull this in, and so your break even is maybe over here somewhere, or sooner is better, or you don't do 1-year contracts. You do 2-year, 18 months or 2-year contracts, because then your business is profitable if they do cancel. So a lot of our mobile phone contracts, historically, at least in the US, have been 2 years for just this reason. All right, so if you take that, let's go through. A unit is a customer or a contract. It has an acquisition cost. That's a cost to bring on board. It has a customer lifetime value, which is a total margin over time. There's an easy way to figure this out for planning purposes. You have a marketing and sales expenditure, which we'll go through in a little bit. You get a number of customers as a result. You can estimate that, and that is a customer acquisition cost. So that's the kind of the simple brain dead way to do it. And then the other side, customer lifetime value, is their profit per month or per period times the number of periods you're going to have customer lifetime. I'll show you some averages. Some of your businesses, if they're consumer facing, may be very short lifetimes. Think about a mobile game. How quickly you play for 2 or 3 days, or maybe longer, who knows? But it can be very short. Enterprise contracts tend to be measured in months or years. And so here I have an example where I've been making $500 a month margin times 50 months, which is just over 4 years. So I'll be making $25,000 on this particular transaction. More math. So there's an element here called churn. Churn is the number of customers you lose in a given period. So you're not going, again, you remember the annual contract. If somebody quits, that is considered churn, and you can measure it on a percentage basis. And churn is interesting because this equation here, if you look at it, churn is the reciprocal of customer lifetime. And so if I lose 2% of my customers a month, then my average customer will last 50 months. So people will ask you, what's your churn? Usually churn kicks in like year 3, 4, 5 for these kinds of enterprise deals. And you need to know what that is. Industry standard, roughly, for enterprise software is about 2%. And so you can use churn also to calculate your customer lifetime value, which is your average revenue per user times how much money, what's your percentage, divided by your churn rate. And you can look that up. Public companies in your space will always publish churn rates. So you can find that out. They'll report that during their earnings calls. You can find that out. So, and in software, if your gross margin is super high, you can take that out of the equation. So it's just basically this, your customer lifetime value divided by your churn. Quick example is, here's my customer that I spent $1,000. I acquired 5 customers, so my average customer acquisition cost is $200. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. It is what it is, but that's my estimate. For that, I'm going to acquire some customers. My customer lifetime value in this case is 5 years. And so maybe I'm a cell phone provider and I think people are going to keep my phone for 5 years. I'll make $20 a month on them. You calculate that out. And so my lifetime relationship with them is $1,200. Note here that there's a ratio between these. It's 6. So 6 times 20 times 6 is 1,200. And so I have here, I'm making 6 times as much as I've spent to go ahead and acquire that customer. Is this good? Let's take a look. Here are the rules of thumb for subscription businesses. 1, crossover point. You want to do that within your contract period, if at all possible. 2, at least 3x. I gave you an example of 6x. At least 3. If it's below that, you're not going to be long-term profitable. And the last one is, whatever your standards are for your subscription business, look them up, talk to people, figure out what's going on. You should match, be at or below, lower is better, below what the industry standards are for your business. Cool. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to give you copies of all the slides. I didn't hear anybody that's doing a marketplace where you're connecting 2 groups. You make money on one or both sides is the function there. A brokerage, same thing. You're selling real estate or stocks or something like that. You're trading and trading somebody else's goods. And so that's also same thing. You make money on one or both sides. Cool. Questions on unit economics? We're good? Is it good?
Good, yeah.
All right. Well, I think this works today. There it goes. Yeah, it does. There's my Apple thing. All right, next. This one's kind of fun, and I will give you everything you need to run these models, and that is revenue models. Okay. Hang on one sec. Where's my Sky sharing? Cancel. No, don't. All right, there we go. Revenue models. What we're doing today is we're marching through this path. And so I'm doing revenue models and unit economics. We're going to build out a pipeline, and we're going to build out your P&L. Revenue models, oh my God. So I had to develop this way to teach finances. And every time I ran into revenue models, this is what I saw. It's just basically a list of stuff. And you can pick, I heard it already, freemium, subscription, tiered pricing. You guys are sort of picking this, and the question is why that one? just because you think it might work. So teaching revenue models is just nothing but these lists of how it works, how things are paid, who pays, what's paid, all this. And so lists after list after list, it drives me nuts. You can see hourly rates and licensing and advertising and transaction fees and microtransactions and franchise fees. Oh my God. All right. How do we sort through all that? Oh, here's more lists. Ad-based, affiliate revenue, transactional models, subscription models. Oh, yeah. I found, this was awesome. This was like a revelation. I found this company called Board of Innovation that developed an algorithm to go ahead and try to figure out the best ways for you to generate revenues. Now it's separated out onto who your customer is. If you have a consumer as a customer, those are simpler models. Consumers work on emotion, they're more transactional, you're not dealing with negotiations or contracts. It's relatively simple to work with consumers on all kinds of different things. Business is different. They, instead of being emotional, they're more worried about really financial results. The contracts tend to be more sophisticated, longer term, and so on. And so there's a different way of pricing out and working with revenue models. So this is the company Board of Innovation. You can look them up. I will send you all the materials here. But basically what it does is it breaks everything down into two decision trees. One for consumers, one for businesses. Decision tree like a flow chart. You guys are software guys, you can figure this out. And so they're pretty simple. It's basically a series of yes/no questions. And so this is the one for consumer. And you ask yes/no questions, and it lands you on one of these slots. And those are specific revenue models that you can do. And so here we go. I won't go through the specifics, it doesn't matter. But it's a series of no, yes, in this case, questions. And this one will land us here. Note that I'll show you an advertising model. And it has the picture, the logo there of Instagram in this case. So then you look at the second part of this and you go, oh, I have a catalog of 26 different revenue models that I could use. In this one, let's go to number 8, which is advertising. And here we go. A bunch of things happen. First off, you see here that it's free for the user and a third party pays the bills. Okay, so here we have a service that you're providing to a consumer. It's free. And for that, you give exposure to an advertiser who pays you per click. So there you go. That's the basics. And the cool thing is that this is available to you to use within your pitch. So you can actually say, I'm here advertising model, and you can describe all these relationships. Here, you have 2 examples. Most of them have 2 examples at least of 2 different companies that use advertising as their model. And so Instagram, we all know. Metro is a Dutch newspaper, less popular, but it's free. And they just basically do, more eyeballs keep rolling and people pay for ads. Cool. Each one of those has a card. I mentioned a marketplace. It's a typical marketplace. My friends at eBay would basically have a platform and they connect, in this case, 2 companies, maybe a buyer and a seller. So here, this company provides a service and a product and an experience to this company, and this company pays them. For that, because you offer the platform, you get a commission. Cool. And here's 2 examples. Selling data. I didn't hear anybody selling data. It was kind of a thing. It's hard to do, but you can, oh, here we go. You met somebody. Good. You can sell, you provide a free service to somebody, you collect the data, and you provide insights to third parties. And this keeps going all through 26 of them. Oops, sorry. There we go. B2B, other side, completely different individual things. You won't find, there's an advertising one here, and there's data selling. So they are there, but they're, using different examples. And then it's exactly the same thing, yes, no questions that will land you on a revenue card. And you can pick multiple revenue streams. For all of you, your businesses, most of the ones I heard, are pretty sophisticated. They're not simple. And so you want to actually find multiple ways to try to get revenue. And you may be surprised once you actually, start working with customers on the best way that they wish to pay you. There may be a primary one, but eBay, transactions, listings, subscriptions, they have all these kinds of things, and it works well for them. So B2B revenue cards, same sort of thing. Off you go, and you can see exactly what's going on. So you can explore these things that are free for the user, or you can take a look at a value price. You have value, and you set a price, and the customer directly pays. So I'll show you a couple more things, but this is my next talk right here. What do you do? How do you price stuff? All right, so this has all kinds of things. You can build your own models, and you can build your own ways to do it. And some of them can get a little complicated. So off you go. Questions on that? You will have this model. I would sit down. It's kind of fun, actually. So I would sit down with this. It takes no more than 20 minutes to parse through, and do your best to try to find more than one revenue model if you can. Cool.
Okay. In theory, we understood everything, but real world is in practice is unexpectable, unpredictable.
Oh well, but we will try, to try to create order from chaos. And this is not super academic. So I'm not giving you pricing theory or anything else. These are practical tools that people have used hundreds of times. So take a crack at it. Pricing. I'm gonna get through this pretty fast because the P&L thing is the most important one today. Pricing. All right. Thank you. It's not exact. This is the real world thing. I'll just give you some boundaries and some tests. But it definitely depended on you and your customer and the competition and which revenue models, plural, you choose. And so you basically set a strategy. There's a great book. I highly recommend this one. Where is it? There it is. Da-da-da. It's called Lean Pricing. And I'm going to go through the basics of what's in there, but there's a lot of really great theory. And through this, just a small amount of extra margin based on smart pricing gets maybe the difference between profit and loss, maybe the difference between doing really well and smashing your competition, so on. So we'll go through these elements. What are you charging for? Unit economics. How often do you charge? What's your revenue model overall? Subscription, usage-based, how are you going to do that? How much? Are you going to charge a lot, a little? Let's figure that out. And then some more advanced things, which is like bundling, dynamic pricing, price differentiation, and so on. I'll talk about that. Okay, so there's your unit economics, there's your revenue model, and we'll talk about things. Pricing's tricky. So first off, realize, and this is the marketing side, what value do you create? How are you going to price something? What's the metrics? How are you going to communicate that to your customer? Are you going to have a price list on your website? Are you going to discuss and maybe negotiate your pricing overall? And then what's the price itself? So all these things need to be considered through that. Again, it's a bit more complicated than one might think, especially for business. In pricing, there's often this discussion from a microeconomic perspective that talks about supply and demand curves. You should generically know what your demand curve looks like, and this is generic. And so what this basically says is at a low price, you can sell a lot. At a high price, you're not going to sell as many. And so if you go through and take a look at those, each one of those becomes a price point, and voila, you have a demand curve. You're not going to get it exact. You're gonna, what's my demand curve? How's it going to look? And this is where you start. In microeconomics, they will tell you, oh, well, the price is set between the intersection of supply and demand. No, because you don't really have a limited supply, or your industry probably doesn't have a limited supply. And so this is not going to happen. Because of that, you're sitting here with a naked demand curve. And then where do you go? Are you the high price person? Are you the low price person? What makes the most sense? Couple things. First off, at some level, you're not going to make money. So depending on what your costs are, we'll calculate that. You're pricing too low. And if you're not able to make money, you're not going to be able to survive long-term as a business. At some point, if you jack things up, you're too expensive. Your customers are solving a problem right now. They're paying something to solve that problem today. Hopefully, you're more effective, more efficient, better in some way, shape, or form. But at some point, they'll just say, I'm sorry, I can't deal with you. So pricing theory has these discussions about willingness to pay, and your suppliers, there's a willingness to sell. You won't be able to buy below that, so you're stuck. And so basically, we talk about where do you set your price, and where when you're dealing with your suppliers, where do you set their price? And so this is their price, and hopefully your suppliers make a little bit of money. This is good. And then this is the maximum they're willing to pay, but you set the price here, and you don't make friends of your customers, but you want to try to maximize your margin, hopefully over time. How do you do that? Well, different products are different. So we have this second test, which is called elasticity. So elasticity is a part, if you microeconomics, it's the delta percentage in price versus the delta percentage in quantity. And so what does that mean? That there's basically two primary types of businesses. That's overly generalized, but this is a commodity business. This has elastic demand. And so if I raise my price by 1/4, my quantity drops by 3x. This is not good. It's very price sensitive. So this would be like a standard commodity, a lot of competition, low differentiation between products. On the other hand, here we go. Inelastic demand, excuse me, if I raise my price by 3 times here, my quantity drops, but in this case, only by 40%. Here, low price often wins. Here, high price, do what you can. So the examples here would be like gas stations, where you have 2 gas stations across the street from each other. One's a penny more. Everybody goes to the one that's a penny less. Used cars. Yeah, it's a used car. I'm not going to pay an extra $100 for that Lada or anything, and so on. So they're price sensitive. Well, it's unfortunate, but electricity, gas, prescription drugs, cigarettes, anything addictive, where somebody has to have it. And this also is true for enterprise software. If you do a good job and they have to have it, price is less of an issue. It doesn't necessarily matter as much. And so these are the things that you should do. Hopefully, most of you are in this bucket, but it's a different pricing strategy depending on which side you're on. Third, do not do cost-based pricing. Okay, that's fine. You have a cost and you're going to want to make 20% profit or something. That's not the way to price. The way to price is through marketing, your messaging, your value proposition, your customer knowledge, the fact that you're working with them and solving their problems. And so you have a higher perceived value and you're able to price at a stronger value, even above competition, where you want to be. Some goofy things here. One way to improve your perception in your customer's eyes is just simply branding. This is American looking, but here are two products. Cornflakes are cornflakes. And they're probably made on the same assembly line, exactly the same place. And just two different boxes. This one is generic at $4, and this one's nice at a brand, and they can charge twice as much. Super common. It's customer perception. Here's a fun one, customer perception. So here we go. Is water's water. Water's water. But which one would you buy? It's funny. A lot of my friends go, "Oh, I buy Smart Water." Well, why are you paying, what is that? Oh, over 3 times. Yeah, 3 times as much for the same thing. Boxed water. Boxed water's better. I swear. So same thing. You can do this too. So it's about marketing and perception. So how do we price? I've just given you a bunch of things to talk about, but how do you actually set price? And there are some ways in which you can test pricing. So if you're out there doing customer interviews right now on customer discovery, what problems do they have? What solutions are they doing? Taking a look at MVPs, that kind of thing. Add price to your customer interviews. How much does this problem cost? Not, hey, would you pay $5? No, they don't know, and they're going to lie. But how much does this problem cost you now? How much are you paying to fix this today? And you're looking for kind of willingness to pay and then ability to pay. And then you can ask other things like, how much do you pay now? What's your annual budget? What else do you need in addition to just my product or service? What else do you need to solve the problem? Other pieces of software, other server, maybe connectivity. What it is that they do to have a complete solution, and you can offer more of that solution and charge higher prices. How do they make the decision? Who makes the decision? How do they decide between, what's the evaluation? Do they have a criteria to evaluate between different solutions overall? What's their list look like? Hey, customer, how are you paid? Do you want to be promoted? How could I help you get promoted? Hey, customer, what could go wrong? What would get you fired? And so on. If you have that motivation, you can help individual champions within your client base work on things. Do you work with approved vendors in the business world? Let's take a defense contractor. They're not going to just deal with anybody off the street. They put you through an approval process to get you on the approved vendor list, and then you can start selling to them. What does that process look like? Can you start that now? Can you actually get the first, get it started, even if you're 6 months away from doing something? So there's a lot of things you can do through customer discovery. Because we're at the top of the hour, I'm going to skip a couple things and just talk that there's also some advanced pricing methods. So I mentioned bundling, which is selling multiple products. Price discrimination, where you keep your customers separated from each other. They don't know what one's charging the next. Dynamic pricing, where it changes. So these are some things you can do that are interesting. If you're wondering what the price, this is one way to do it. You can take basically your same product. This is basically the same product for GoPro, which is the consumer camera thing, sports camera. And GoPro didn't know where their consumers were going to lie. So they came up with 3 different models. This one's simple. This is exactly the same thing, except it says 3+. And then this is the same thing, the black edition overall, just with a little remote. When they first came out, everybody was gravitating towards the high end. It was brand new. It's super cool. Everybody wanted one. We're willing to pay because nothing else existed. Then competitors, Chinese competitors, started to show up on the scene, and they saw people being more price sensitive and eventually going to here. So people do this all the time. Here's Apple, and what they do, this is old, but I have my, I have my 12 mini over there. But they have portfolio pricing, and they always test the high end. I think we'll have a $2,000 phone pretty soon. And they keep the low end so they can protect what it is they're doing. Dynamic pricing. Airlines are the most common. You know, I just bought a ticket to Baku for a couple weeks from now, and it was 3 times what I would have paid over the summer. Same airline, same seat, same everything, just 3 times more expensive because of the season. Baseball, any sporting event. If it's a good team, prices go up. If it's a bad team, prices go down. And so you could do this, and it allows you to basically look like you have multiple product lines and you can maximize your profits. This is what Amazon does. They charge different prices during different times of day. Here's low demand, here's breakfast time, high demand, here's lunchtime, daytime, high demand, and so on. And so it changes. And you can, if you're smart, you know your customers, this is the way they maximize things overall. You can separate your customers. You can charge some of your customers high prices and some of your customers low prices. That's totally legal. At least in the US it is. I think it's legal everywhere. And so here, what they often do is if you're ordering online, they know where you live. And if you live in a high income area, then you get charged more. If you live in a low income area, you get charged less. So one by one. I'll leave it there. There's more. But that gives you kind of an idea of pricing. It's a really interesting, sophisticated part of the overall business, and it makes a big deal at the end of the day. All right, 25 minutes. We're going to go. Any questions on that, by the way?
Does it have sense, for example, making like the high price for something that is not very usable for someone, for example, like as I told you before, for example, not to level of pricing of the subscription, but 3, for example. And the third has no sense. It looks like too expensive for them, and will it motivated to choose, for example, the second stage or the first stage? Depends on. So there is a sense to make something very, very expensive to make them to buying something lower, but just buying it.
Yeah, it gives them choice. It gives them the feeling like they're in control. If you have multiple price points for something, or multiple service levels, and this allows you to test the market, and you might be surprised that somebody actually pays a higher price. And no, it's true, because in a lot of cases, price is a signal to value. And let's say you have an executive in a company that wants to make sure, absolutely sure, that they are buying products of the highest quality and price is less sensitive. They want to absolutely make sure that they deal with the best vendors. And so the one with the highest price has a perception that they have the best product.
Okay. So
Kind of,
for
like
someone, it will be
psychology.
motivating to buy, but smaller cost. But for someone who wants like the best, the premium, they can buy it and the highest cost. Okay, understood.
Yeah. Have fun. See, this is kind of fun part of it, where you have different knobs that you can use, and it's worth experimenting. If you have a mentor that's done this before in the same industry, they can really help too. Somebody that's kind of done that. AO can help hook you up with somebody. Felix is good at this if you're dealing with him. Cool. All right. We're off and running now to the races. Let me get the P&L thing going on. There it is. Oh, come on. There we go. And sorry, it just took over my whole window. I have to change one setting here real quick. Okay, we're good. Perfect. And share and share and share. All right, building P&L. It's important because after all, investors don't really put their money into ideas. They might love what you do, but an investor basically wants to put money into something, watch it grow, and sell it off. And so they're looking for you to be able to speak to revenues, profits. How much money do you need to make this happen? How many people you're going to get? What's your burn rate? How much money you're going to spend on a monthly basis while you're losing money? If you're losing money, how long can you last with your existing cash? That's called a runway. And so you might say it's $100,000 a month, and we're going to last 6 months. Those are burn rate runway. And what they're looking for is for you to be able to describe your business. This is why you, as the CEO, should build your finances. And I'll show you the easy way to do that. Because if you get somebody else to do it and you get a hard question, you won't know the answer because somebody else built it for you. So if you build it, you can do it. And we do that through a 5-year P&L. And we break it out by presentation. In general, investors, the way they think is, I want to invest and I want to make a return. So that's why they don't really care what you do at the end of the day, as long as you're making this equation work. Why 5 years? It seems random. It's not. An investment fund, this is different than angels, but an investment fund, like a venture capitalist, typically a fund lasts for 5 years. And so it took them a year to raise the fund from their limited partners, and they have usually now 3 to 5 years to invest, and then the balance of it, 5 to 7 years to go ahead and harvest. Harvest means that you either go public or they're going to sell you to somebody else. And so if you don't take venture money, if you don't want to be sold, but if you want to get sold and you want to become, liquid, then this is the process overall. So 5 years gives them the picture that says if they invest now, they might be able to get a harvest out within the first 5+ years. If you've ever taken accounting or finance, these are the 3 basic statements: a balance sheet, which is assets and liabilities, income statement, which we're going to talk about, and a cash flow statement, which is like a cousin of an income statement. No one cares about the first one or the last one for an early stage startup. We're focused on this idea of an income statement. The structure for an income statement is pretty simple. It looks like unit economics. Basically, it's your revenue coming in minus your cost of goods sold is your gross profit. Your gross profit minus all your fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are the money you're spending, whether you sell 1 unit, 1,000 units, and so on. You still have those bills to pay, and those usually come under engineering, or research and development, engineering, sales and marketing, and something called G&A, which is all the overhead. Now, I'll talk about that. And so it's your gross profit minus your fixed expenses is your net profit. Now, in accounting, they talk about all this crap that happens at the after net profit. So you have interest and taxes and depreciation and all that. And most of you, except for the gentleman building the big robot that's going to sweep, recycles and garbage and stuff like that, most of you are not building anything significant. And so most of you are not going to be concerned with anything down here. you're dealing with EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and allowances stuff. So basically, it's your operating plan, what you do day to day. It's the curve of death, the valley of death. You saw that. And so to build that, you only really need three things. You need to know what your income is. You need to know what it costs you, your variable costs to deliver that. And you need to know your fixed expenses. And that's it. So it's not that hard. Let's step through those. Again, we have our friend, the valley of death curve. We're going to match that and march it over. How do we draw the valley of death curve? We do it by basically a series of assumptions. Now, this is not traditional accounting or finance. This is a plan. And so we don't care. No one cares if it meets generally accepted accounting principles or the international finance recording standards or reporting standards, then no one cares, as long as you're capturing all the numbers loosely. So that's why this methodology works pretty easily. What an investor wants to do is to basically have it look something like this. So you're going through the stages of your company. You're starting to make some revenue. You're losing money for a little while. You're reaching break even. You're profitable. And they want to capture you during this phase, which means invest early and exit at the maximum peak. Oh my God, how do I do this? We're going to turn you into fortune tellers. So there's no evidence. You don't have a real, some of you have a little bit of revenue trickling in, but for the most part, nah. So we have to guess. How do we guess? We make up a story. How do we make up a story? We're going to, so first off, we make it easy. Remember, don't open a spreadsheet yet. So we're going to do all of our assumptions first. We're going to build it out by quarters. If you have 5 years, by month, it's 60 individual cells. You can't do that, especially on the out years. We do by quarters. You'll have enough information to be able to do a quick sanity check. And then later on, you do your monthly plan. So you saw this earlier. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build you a timeline. We're going to build out your unit economics, and then we're going to build a short-term plan. How do you know? First off, you should know in general who your customers are, what are you going to sell them, your products or services. We now know how to get your series of revenue models. Hopefully you can start to think about who's going to help you sell. You can do it yourself. You're going to work with partners. Where are you going to sell? What are you going to sell now and later? And then, any changes in what's going on in the later years, probably none. You should know in general, how many peeps, how many people, what are you going to pay them? I'll show you how to do that. When are you going to launch and how much is it going to cost? Or where are you going to be? Where are you going to have offices? Are you going to patent anything or trademark anything? So on. Generally, this is what I teach, is that startups go through phases. Most of you are in customer discovery, where you're building out your MVPs, you're getting first connection with customers, you're doing some trials, some proof of concepts. That's great. Some of you are farther along that says, I have first revenue and I'm trying to figure out how to get my sales and marketing channels up and running. I didn't hear anybody that's beyond that, where customer creation, you're in growth phase. But each one of those, you should kind of know what you're going to spend. So during your initial problem solution fit, prototype MVP stages, what do you need? What do you need to get your sales channels up and running? And what do you need to grow? You can do that in a timeline. Timelines are a powerful tool. They're awesome. And so, before you open a spreadsheet, start to build your timeline. You can sit down on a whiteboard with your team, your advisors, and everybody else and mark this out. I'll show you a way it's done. This is a Ukrainian company that I mentored at Unit City, and they built this, and I love it. I use it in all my presentations. So notice one is by quarter. So your big picture. This is 2.5, 3.25 years. They start off with their idea, they built an MVP, they go through product market fit, and they're looking to expand. Their product initially is going to be their MVP. They're doing proof of concepts and trials and everything else. This next one is they're going to add some learning advisor features, whatever that is, then enterprise features, and then consumer-facing features. Cool. They're going to sell in Ukraine to small, medium businesses. Cool. They're going to then go international, and then they're going to go to, instead of small, medium businesses, to enterprises. They're going to build their development team. Then they're going to build their learning advisors team, so the customer-facing group, and then international sales and marketing. And as they're doing that, they've got some milestones about when they're going to do their releases and what's going on. And then this will calculate the money they need, but you can see in this case, they're going to do 2 raises, and so on. Timelines are awesome. And this is just one example. This is a very primitive example about quarters, what they're thinking about doing, how many people they need, and when they're going to raise their money. Here's another one from one of my favorite books. This is Fundamentals of Entrepreneurial Finance. Also by quarters, it lists 2 products. Some of you may have multiple product lines. So here's Wonderful and Dakota Star. I don't know what they are, but here's our design. Here's our design later. It's about 6 months later. Here's our sales and marketing for those 2 products. Here's our product manufacturing. Here's the number of people I need. And here's the number of finances. So get the idea. All right. Unit economics, you know how to do that. We've been through all this. In my case, what I want to end up with my clicker is a set of assumptions. So this is now what I'm going to put in my financial plan. So it's a product, we know that. I'm selling it to a resegmented market, which means it's not a commodity, nor is it anything brand new. I mean, this is just a clicker. It's not a brand new market that I'm trying to push. So that influences a lot of things, timing and pricing and so on. I know who my customers are. I'm going to sell this to business people and university professors. I'm going to sell it through as a consumer. So I won't sell to universities themselves or the businesses themselves. I'll sell it to individuals through Amazon. I'm not going to build a factory. I'm going to use some place, probably in Ukraine, if you will, to go ahead and build this out. It's going to take me 3 months to get my prototypes, 3 months to get to sample, 3 months to get to production. And I'm selling for me in the US, and then I'm going to move internationally. So there you go. There's my timeline. And this is I use my crude timeline to build it out, but I now know what I can do with my plan. I know my unit economics. We've been through that. And now here's the tricky part, and that is to actually build out the volumes. This is the scary part because now you actually have to put something down on paper. We do by quarters, so it makes it easier. Now look, I'm actually starting with a spreadsheet. And I know because I built a timeline, I've gotten my customer feedback. I'm taking a look at other companies in my field and seeing how fast they grow or don't. And then I'm going to take my stab at it. Here's my stab. So I know when my samples, I know when my initial production is. I think that's how fast I can grow. So, and if somebody asks me, I have an explanation. I'll back that up with real information, but I think I'm going to grow to 200,000 units. Notice thousands of units. 200,000 units by the end of my 2nd year. Okay. I have a sales price, average sales price, which was 25. Remember, it's not 35 because Amazon takes 10, so it's 25. And so I'm at $5 million overall by the end of the 2nd quarter. I do the same thing with my costs. So it's $10. It's steady state for the first couple of years. I'll show you a change in a minute. And so I'm at 2 million, and 5 minus 2 is 3. I have a gross profit. I'm losing a little money here because I'm sampling, giving away stuff, but you know, at least I'm there. This is top line. This is the first half of what you've done. And I have a margin. You don't have to put that there, but it's a margin. Cool. Fixed costs. Let's go through. Engineering, sales and marketing, and G&A. If I had a factory, I'd put it in a separate line, maybe operations. I had warehouses. If I had big support staff, if I had a legal department, stuff like that. So it's not restricted to those three, but your companies are probably, typical like this. This whole fixed cost thing comes down to two things. Number one, it's the people and then the tools that they need to be effective. So it's salaries and expenses. Let's look. Salaries. You can be picky. You can go, oh, I'm going to pay myself this much, and I'm going to pay Joe this much, and I'm going to pay Sally this much, and Yvette that much, blah, blah, blah. Or mostly for planning purposes, I just say, I need 20 people. I'm going to pay them on average. In the US, it'd be $100,000 per. In Ukraine, it may be $50,000 per. Whatever you think the industry average is for companies of your size, and you just simply run it out. It makes it a lot easier. So we're going to take a look at that by department and expenses. So I'm going to need some subcontractors. I'm going to need some marketing. I'm going to need some expenses to market. And I'm going to have all my other stuff down here. One by one, what are my assumptions? Just like I had assumption for my product, what are my assumptions for engineering? I'm going to have a small group of engineers. I'm going to hire some design contractors in Ukraine. Both of us need software so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to have my engineers oversee the manufacturing side too, wherever my factory is. They're going to go there and check it out, make sure everything's okay. And that's my plan. So I need just a few peeps, small. I'm going to pay them $25,000 a quarter, US salary. I'm going to buy some tools. I'm going to hire my contractors, wherever they may happen to be. I'm going to get my travel going, and off we go. So I have salaries. I have my expenses, and that's my total. It's not that hard. That's engineering. Sales and marketing. Let's go through. I know who my target customers are. I'm going to sell directly through Amazon. I'm going to use Amazon as a marketing vehicle because they'll help me advertise. I'm going to also ship out some demo units, get into journals, stuff. That's my plan. I have peeps. This is marketing more than it's a simple product. So I have more marketing people than engineers. Here's my expenses that I'm guessing. You double check those with mentors and stuff. And so it's salaries plus expenses is my total. Excuse me. G&A, how much do I need? I'm not going to pay my overhead. I'm not going to take a salary as a CEO until I'm shipping products. I'm going to use outsiders for all my contracts, and I'm going to take a look at some patent searches. I may not patent. I'm going to do a co-working space somewhere, and I'm going to have Amazon do my warehousing. Okay, peeps, expenses, G&A. Now I roll it up. Here we go. There's all my fixed expenses, and that's my total there. And then I can calculate my gross profit minus my expenses is my net profit. Cool. Then I take my net profit. Oh, a couple things before that. So a few things. So first off, I'm losing money. That would be called your burn rate. So I'm starting at 300,000 to 400,000 and reducing that down to 200,000. I'm breaking even. Yay. After the first year, expect to lose money. And if I add them up, 360 plus 482 plus 200 plus 255, this is how deep my hole is. So I'm going to need at least 1.3 million to do my clicker business. And in this case, so I should raise at least 1.5 million as things go wrong. How do I do that? That's a discussion. Maybe you have access to grants. Maybe you can get some loans. Maybe you sell part of the company, like an equity deal through an angel or a VC. It's a strategy question. Cool. So now we have at least the first part. We kind of know what's going on with the business. There's two ways to build out the 5-year strategy. There's more than two, but here's two I'll show you. One is just you pick a growth rate. I'm going to grow this at 80% per year. Okay. So with 80% per year, tick, 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 I know that I'm going to grow my units out. I'm going to take my pricing down because it's a consumer product, and so I'll probably see some competition. I'm going to take my costs down, so 10 all the way down to 580 because my manufacturing volumes are increasing. I'm going to plug in what I think my R&D and other expenses are going to be, and I'm going to run my P&L. Cool. All right, 5 years. I'm profitable, not by much, but I'm profitable overall at 80% growth. Let's take another look at it. Let me just pick a number. So this is US. In general, if you're going to make less than $20 million in year 5, you're not venture fundable. Because they can't make that ratio that I talked about earlier, the invest 1 and make 10, or even invest 100,000 and make $1 million. You just can't do it because the numbers are too small. If you're between 20 and 50, it's interesting. 50 to 100, it's really interesting. Over 100, you're smoking crack because you're a unicorn at 100 million revenues, because you're usually about a 10x valuation. So it's hard to do. So I'm going to pick a number. I'm going to be a $46 million company. Okay. And then I plug in my costs. I know what those are. And then I have to figure out what my expenses are going to be. And the way I do that is to look at industry standards. So industry standards are like this. So here's for consumer businesses with simple engineering costs and high marketing costs, which is me. It looks like this, ranges. And then for businesses, more sophisticated products, simpler sales process, or at least more direct, and lower overhead. So I'm going to pick my numbers here. I'm at the low end of R&D. I'm in the middle of marketing and sales. I'm at the low end of G&A. And I'm done. I'm done. So there you go. It looks like a wall of numbers. It is. But now, because you've built it, you understand exactly what's going on. And you'd say it's a $50 million business. I break even after year 2. I break even during year 2. I'm profitable. And my expenses are within industry standards. Simplify it in your presentation. Now I'm in millions. And I've not given all the detail in a presentation. You can do graphs too. Graphs are fine. I like the numbers because it just shows financial literacy and what's happening. Double check. Have somebody else take a look at it. Make sure you're all within industry. It's not crazy talking. You're within industry standards. And we're done. I don't know why. I like being on time, but we're done. We finished it out. I'll send you copies of the slides and I'll answer any questions you guys have.
I have a question. Can we meet in the future? Because I have made unit economic and it looks like Sevilla, but I think I can make some mistakes. So I need your advice about this.
Okay, check in with Marco. He's he'll take care of all the arrangements. And I'm in California, so I don't know what the 10 hours, I think, time difference. So maybe 11. So yeah, we can take a look.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do you feel like you learned? That was a semester's worth of finance. There's a quiz coming later. Great, you guys. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start I let you guys go. I know, thank you for all being here. I'm going to start my day and run around. But again, I'm willing to help, and Slava Ukraini, and let's keep it going.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.